and this is the subscriber. It will send a message to the subscriber saying that click happened, you perform that functionality. Now this one will perform the functionality. Observe carefully. When I click the button, now error will come. It will say that F1 is not defined. That means if you think that you are writing a function and calling a function, then at the time of loading itself, it should show an error saying that there is no function by name F1. But it is not doing so. When I click, it is pointing towards that function and it is unable to find that function F1. Then it shows an error. It shows an error. So technically, event is using, technically event is using a delegate mechanism. Delegate mechanism means we call it as function pointer. It is using a function pointer. Event is using a delegate mechanism. Function pointer. That means it is pointing towards the function. That is how actually event works. So in this, two important points are there. So if I return, that means Angular can make use of all JavaScript browser events. All JavaScript browser events. So that means if anyone asks, like suppose we have a button. If anyone asks what is event for button, then many people say that for button we have click event. No, that is wrong. Event doesn't belong to any button or any control. Events actually belong to browser. I think many of you know that click is an event which you can use for button, which you can use for div, which you can use for span, which you can use for image, which you can use for paragraph or any element. It is not like it is used for only button. User can click anything. Even he can click on body also. That means events are not associated with controls. Events are related to browser. Browser provides events. Those events are used by elements. Technically, all events are browser events. So JavaScript browser events and Angular can make use of all those events. And important is events are categorized into several groups based on their functionality and behavior. Actually, we have mouse events, we have key events, we have timer events, and we have miscellaneous events. Events are categorized into several: mouse events, key events, timer events, miscellaneous events. So these all actually belong to browser, and we make use of these browser events here. So we are going to understand all these events. How do we work? How do we handle different types of events here? So that is the basic thing. And Angular can bind events to HTML elements by using event binding technique. Event binding technique. That means it uses events in a round brace. We can define an event, and we can configure some function here, function 1. And that is how we define the event. That's how we define the event. All right. Now here, two important points you need to know. So this click is called event, and click is equal to F1. Means on click, it is pointing towards the function F1. This is called as event handler. We call this as event handler. Event handler defines the event and the function to execute and the function to point towards. Event and event handler complete is called as event handler. So click is equal to function 1. This is event handler. So important actually in JavaScript, when you are defining event, so events have event arguments. Events have event arguments. Generally in JavaScript, 2 event arguments are there. So that means JavaScript event arguments. JavaScript uses this, and JavaScript uses event as event arguments. JavaScript uses this and event as event arguments. That means JavaScript syntax will be like this actually. On click is equal to function 1, and this comma event. These are event arguments. Now what is the point here is button on click, and that is how we define the event arguments. What is purpose of this? This comprises of object related properties like object related properties like value, ID, class, name, etc. All these object related properties. Which object related properties? Current object related properties. That means button related properties are sent to the function by using this. So it is a sender. It sends information about the object to that function. And event comprises of event related properties. Like event have properties like client X, client Y,